real good.
Why it stopping me?
What's going on, everybody? Hey, thanks so much for jumping in and joining me this evening. Yeah, I know it's not Monday. I missed it again, and it is completely my fault. I have been dealing with a lot over the past couple of days and weeks, and so I wanted to take at least a portion of um, this evening's episode and talk about some of those things, talk about some of what I've been dealing with, and just kind of lay things out a little bit as to how I got started in the automotive realm of things, automotive world, how I managed to be a part of a couple of different YouTube channels and have done some automotive journalism as well as some automotive reviews and just a lot of automotive things over the years. And to give you some of my background and some of my history um, over well since birth, really. Yeah, I wanted to take a few minutes and do that this evening, uh, just to kind of lay things out a little bit, and so you can know where I'm coming from and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So at the end of the episode, I will share a little more about the purpose of what I'm doing here with Wide Open, and what I hope to see comes to fruition with this channel and um, with the growth of this opportunity. So I will go ahead and kick things off by saying thank you to each and every one of you who have tuned in, and thank you for being a part of this journey with me. I did start very young, liking cars, like a lot of kids growing up, especially little boys. I played with plenty of cars, in particular Hot Wheels cars, while growing up, and I had a lot of fun with that. Had a lot of fun with just hanging out and enjoying playing with cars, the Hot Wheels tracks, and um, the. It really didn't matter what it was necessarily. It could have been a Hot Wheels. It could have been a Tonka truck, like the real good Tonka trunks with metal beds and bodies and things. Um, could have also been, I had a Night Rider, um, little 6-volt Power Wheel Night Rider that I rode around as well. And of course, it never stayed charged long enough for me. But uh, but yeah, that was a lot of my childhood. It was a lot of cars, a lot of playing with cars, riding bikes, lots of things with wheels. I was always itching to get on, granddad's lawnmower and go run around the neighborhood or around the yard or whatever. And all the way up until I believe my 12th or my 13th Christmas, or the Christmas right before my 13th birthday, my when my parents bought me a dirt bike, and it was kind of my first uh, real taste of the petrol head kind of life, the gasoline infused energy that comes along with motorcycles, it comes along with motorsports, comes along with playing in the dirt with your big boy toys. And it was a 1980 model Honda XR80 dirt bike. Super simple, but an absolute blast. Just a good old 4-stroke Honda motorcycle, and I rode the mess out of that thing. Put more than one front fender on it. At one point, I stuck it between a chain link fence and a pole, and shattered the front fender. Laid it over probably countless times, jumping different things. Where we lived at the time, we had a small yard relatively, but the neighbors right next door to us had about 5 or 6 acres at the front of their property. May not have been quite that much even, but it was plenty for me. I had a blast cutting across their pasture and jumping their road and jumping their ditch and stuff like that with the dirt bike, and I loved it. I was we were in small town America at that point, and a lot of the boys my age were involved in motocross and spent a lot of time on their weekends at the motocross track riding dirt bikes. And so when I finally had mine, yeah, I was all about it. I was head over heels for the dirt bike and had a lot of fun with that thing over the years. Um, Jump forward a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. Like I said, I can't remember 100% what year it was that I got the dirt bike, but a few years later, around about my 15th birthday, I decided that a car would serve me a little better than a dirt bike, and so I started looking, started hunting around for something that would be my first car. And my dad had had multiple air cooled Volkswagens when he was growing up as his daily drivers and vehicles that would get him to and from work, to and from school, that kind of thing, even to and from college. At one point, he was driving a Volkswagen, and so that was kind of the initial direction that I went with my pursuit. And I managed to find one, a 1971 Volkswagen Super Beetle that the engine had cratered in, and it was listed at like $600 or something like that. And it was over an hour away from where I was, but I was religious about going to get my thrifty nickel every week. If you're at all familiar with the thrifty nickel in East Texas, is it's kind of a classifieds. There's all kinds of things in it, but there's an automotive classifieds. There's lawnmowers and different things like that. It shows the garage sale listings for the week, and it came out every Thursday. It was new every Thursday, and so I was very particular about going to get my thrifty nickel every week because I wanted to find my Volkswagen. This was before the age of Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and a lot of the online classifieds that we have now that make it so much easier to find and so much simpler to search for the project vehicles and different things that we have so much fun doing now. This was the old fashioned way, I guess you might say, or an older fashioned way of going about it. I know there's some older classified magazines and things that would post pretty regular, but that was my introduction to the classifieds, and I had a lot of fun with it. Found several different opportunities, but this one in particular, this 71 Super Beetle, it was blue, and managed to swing a deal with the guy. I'm 14, 15 years old and still very naive. Hadn't really negotiated for much of anything at this point, and so I offered him $400 for it after we had come out and seen it, and this was over the phone. We had left and gone back home. I called him a day or so later and offered him $400 for it, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "If you'll come get it, you can have it for 350." And I thought I had won the lottery. At that point, my motorcycle had sold for somewhere around $400 or $500 at a garage sale that we had, and so I had cash for a vehicle and with a title, which is a huge deal in Texas. Let me tell you, if you don't have a title for something, you may as well not sell it because it's next to impossible to get one for you or for, well, it's easier for you as the individual who currently owns the vehicle to get a title than it is for someone to buy something and try and get a title for it later on. It's just a nightmare in Texas. But yeah, so I had a title, had a vehicle, and thankfully my parents were willing to let me park a junk vehicle in the front yard for a few months while we while my dad and I pulled the engine out, pulled it apart, and discovered that the camshaft gear had actually sheared off the end of the camshaft in this engine. So um, that started the process of saving up, buying parts, and building a motor. and saving up and buying parts and buying tires and saving up and buying parts and adding chrome here and painted there and just all the things that go into a restoration type vehicle. And it took a few years, a lot of saving up, a lot of buying things as I could, that kind of thing. I managed to graduate a year early, and that meant that I was 17 and a half when I started college. And my car was still in pieces, still in the process of getting painted, and still had to be put back together. That same fall that I started college, about 5 hours away from Tyler in East Texas, where I'm at now, in Oklahoma City, my parents also moved up to Oklahoma City and brought my car with me, which was great because it gave me an opportunity to work on it on occasion. And they also brought it up and sort of surprised me with it, but they brought it up painted. They had painted it orange, and I loved it. It was a great color on that car. But yeah, well, so over the next 6 or 7 months or so, I managed to get the car pretty much back together, and got it where it would be roadworthy to drive around, and took it up to school and had it for a few months. And Oklahoma tends to get pretty chilly in the winter, a lot of cold weather and a lot of wind in general, and typically some snow. And then this particular winter was no exception to that. We actually had a couple of different snowstorms of sorts, you might say, one of which left more of a dusting on everything, but it was the perfect amount to go play around in the rear engine, rear wheel drive, manual transmission Volkswagen Beetle and Super Beetle. And so me and my roommate jumped in it one night when it was snowing and flurrying a little bit, and went out and got some donuts in a parking lot and that kind of thing. And so I had that car for a little while until the engine seized. Um, and I'm still not convinced of what actually caused it to seize. But the um, number three piston, where it attaches to the crankshaft, or piston rod rather, had actually gone from being a cylinder to being opened up like this, and the one bolt had come out or broke off completely. The other one had actually bent and twisted, and so that was what was the demise of that Volkswagen. On an air cooled engine, oil is your friend, and cool oil in particular. And I did not have either of those things on that number three rod bearing at that point. So lost that engine, and I was good grief, elbow deep in school at that point, and needed to get back and forth to school, needed to get back and forth to work, and so we sent the car over to a guy by the name of Fast Eddie in Oklahoma City. And this is kind of a cool tie-in. We talk about degrees of separation. If you're familiar with Farm Truck and Asian of Street Outlaws, they had or Asian had actually the car called the Dung Beetle, and it was the engine was tuned at least. I think it was also built by, but it was tuned at least by Fast Eddie in Oklahoma City at Eddie's Imports, and so that was a cool little tie-in that I had. That I had an engine. It was a factory 1600 dual port, but it was built by Fast Eddie, the same guy that built the Turbo Beetle for Asian on Street Outlaws. So kind of a fun little tie-in there. But yeah, so I had the car for a little while longer after that. It was a couple of summers later that I was dating a girl who had actually followed me up to Oklahoma City. Was living with my folks at the time, and we had gone on vacation down to Galveston. I'm sorry, she wasn't yet in Oklahoma City. She was still in the East Texas area. So I went down a day ahead of time to see her because she was going to go on vacation with us down to Galveston, and took my bug. It was the middle of summer. It was hot. Went down, met up with her, spent the night at her parents' house, And then she and I got up the next morning and went down to Galveston and spent the week down there. We actually got engaged that week. And on the way back from Galveston, we're on 45 northbound, coming through somewhere. If you're familiar with the area, it's right around Fairfield, Texas, on 45. And my parents are following me. We're in the bug, cruising along 65, 70 miles an hour. And someone was stopped on the side of the road. And then another vehicle was right in front of it, actually nosed up to it, pointed the wrong direction on the side of the road. I'm in the right lane, and the car, it's far enough ahead that the car had time to pull out, but they pulled out in front of me, and I see this other vehicle sitting there with a trailer on the back that was pointed the wrong way, and I was confused about it. And in those 2 or 3 half seconds there, uh, my fiance then yelled my name, and I looked up, and the vehicle that had pulled out in front of me was like right in front of me. So I swerved to miss it and overcorrected. The rear of the car slid off in the grass, off the shoulder, and as it came kind of back across, the rear tire caught the edge of the pavement, and it picked the car up and dropped it on the roof. And we spun halfway around before it kicked back up and bounced off the interstate on all four tires and did kind of a pirouette around the nose before it set back down on all four in the middle of Interstate 45. Um, and by the grace of God, um, and 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 German engineering, um, we walked away with I had a scratch on my head. I had shaved my head that week. I had a scratch on my head, and she had smashed a finger, and that was it. That was it. That was all that we uh, all the more any issues that we had. In fact, when the paramedics arrived at the scene, they saw my mother and my sister standing barefoot in the midst of all the glass that had shattered out of my car in the middle of the interstate, hysterical, and they thought they were the ones that were involved in the accident because my fiance and I were busy, gathering up stuff out of the car, putting it in my mom and dad's car to make the rest of the trip back to Oklahoma City, and so we got checked out pretty quickly and got the car loaded up, got the Volkswagen pushed off to the side of the road, and we went on to Oklahoma City. Um, my dad and actually the pastor that he was working for at the time, when we got back to Oklahoma City, they loaded up with a truck and trailer and went back down to Fairfield. After the 9 hours one direction, they went back to Fairfield, south of Dallas, on 45, and loaded up the car and came home with it. And it sat in my driveway for about 3 or 4 months, or at my folks' house in the driveway. And I was pretty upset, pretty shook up from that for a little while. But eventually, the scared part of it wears off, and you just start wanting to drive again. And so I started shopping around for another car. I had actually managed to save the majority of that vehicle, and I ended up posting the car and more so trying to part it out. I mean, it was mangled. Um, the roof was caved in. The passenger door was the only one that would open. The hood was smashed. Every fender was bent. The rear apron was torn. The rear deck lid was dented. It was haggard. It was beat. And so I I basically just did what I could with what I could. All four wheels were bent, and so I just posted the motor for $1,500 and had somebody bite somebody I think out of Missouri or Kansas that decided that they wanted to go ahead and get the engine. I had chromed it out. It was like the firewall covering was chrome, the doghouse was chrome, the fan shroud, like the all the tins, everything. It was all chromed out, and then I had blue spark plug wires and a blue spark plug cap and a little blue. finned piece that went behind the generator against the fan shroud. And so it was an orange car with the blue accents and that all that chrome in the engine compartment. I loved it. I thought it was great. But ended up selling that motor. And before the guy was supposed to come down, we'd been negotiating a little bit, and I told him it was in what it was in. And I said, I tell you what, for another $200, you can have the whole car. And he seemed pretty excited about that. So for $1,700, he came down, loaded it up, and I watched it drive away. And was kind of a losing your first love kind of moment with that car, but also a bit of relief from that car finally going away, and some of the harsh, I had gotten engaged that same week, and spent a week with my girlfriend, fiance at the beach with my family. We had a great time, and it was all kind of um, sullied a bit by the wreck on the way home. So it was a bit of a relief, as well as an emotional moment when that car left, because it had been through so much with me. So that was my first car. That was kind of what got me into the air cooled scene, into cars in general, into manual transmissions, and that that was a huge part of my automotive shapedness, as I got older and looked for different vehicles to drive. There's a meme that floats around Facebook every once in a while. It says something like, "The average person owns 7 cars in their lifetime," and it's that uh, goofy puppet-looking guy who's got kind of that uh, um, looking at you and then looking away type emotion on his face, because he knows that we as gearheads are far above average when it comes to our car count. And uh, and that was certainly the case for me. I was swapping and selling about every 6 months to a year for several years in there. Everything from a couple more air cooled Volkswagens to I had a '94 F-150 extended cab, 4-wheel drive, two tone pickup truck. Yeah, 4-wheel drive. Had the 5.0 and a 5-speed manual transmission. Absolutely adored that truck. That's one that I still wish that I had. I had a 2000 model Honda Civic 2-door. It was a EX with the 4-cylinder 5-speed, sunroof, power windows, a blast of a car, and it did not care how hard you drove it. It was going to get 35 miles to the gallon. Period. It was awesome. I loved that car. That was a cool car for a long time. I had a '98 Grand Am, 2-door with the V6. It was an SE, so it didn't have the graphics and whatnot that the GT did, but it was still a pretty cool car that I enjoyed. And a handful of other little, like a Mazda pickup at one point, and then I had probably the one vehicle I've had the longest is my 2008 F-150 Super Crew 4x4. It was a short bed, 5.4 3-valve Triton, and I put oh 90,000 miles on that truck. I think something like that, 80 or 90,000 miles on that truck. But I absolutely loved that truck, and started having some trouble with it as part of the reason I traded it off. But yeah, I had that truck for about 8 years, and it was a great truck. Really enjoyed that truck. Um, just just a solid, um, straightforward, simple pickup that I really enjoyed. And I'll probably have another one. Probably not with the 5.4 3-valve ever again, but I will likely have another F-150 of that era at some point in my life. Currently, I'm driving a 2016 Ford Expedition EL, with the 3.5 twin turbo EcoBoost. It's a 2-wheel drive, tow package limited, and it's got buckets in the second row, heated and ventilated seats in the front, although they don't work at the moment. Um, it's white with the tan interior, which for a guy that works at a shop is not great. I will admit. I have had to clean it up quite a bit, a few times, of the grease stains and dirt and things that I track into it. But it has currently 214,000 and change miles on it, and it's kind of our family travel rig. It's my daily at the moment, but it's our family travel rig, because it's big and comfortable. It does okay with fuel mileage, but it's got plenty of room behind the second row, and that, or behind the third row rather. And I've got three boys, and all of the accoutrements that go along with having three boys. One of them's a teenager, and one of them is 2 years old just now. So lots of things that we take with us when we go places. But it's been a really really solid rig for us. It, like I said, it's big and comfortable. It rides really well. Plenty of power. We use it to tow the boat on the weekends, and I honestly would have no qualms at all about putting the boat behind it and going to Austin or going to Oklahoma City or even further than that. It does incredibly well for us with the needs that we have, and would highly recommend it. When we were looking for that truck, we actually, I kind of honed in on a couple of years in there where I knew that was the body style that we wanted with the drivetrain that we wanted, and then a few of the features that we wanted. I knew I wanted the tow package. Two or four wheel drive didn't really matter much. I'm in Texas. We don't get snow that often. So the two-wheel drive was fine. Plus, it would save us a little bit on maintenance and fuel economy. So the two-wheel drive was great. It was fine. But we knew we wanted a limited. We knew we wanted the tow package, and we knew we wanted that 15, 16, 17 body style and powertrain. And we came across this one and we jumped on it, and it's been a really solid truck for us. So um, yeah, I've also had a motorcycle in the mix. I would love to have another motorcycle. Mine was a 2007 Honda Shadow Spirit in Honda Blue, and it was a great motorcycle. 750, air cooled, super simple, kind of stretched out, kind of choppery looking, but rode great, fired up every time. Just a great motorcycle. And I do plan on having another motorcycle at some point in the future. But yeah, I have had quite the array from Civics to F-150s to full size SUVs, including an Excursion. I've had motorcycles and you know, air cooled Volkswagens and all kinds of things. So uh, kind of a fun mix of vehicles over the years, and that kind of leads me into my history with the automotive journalism side of things. About 5 years ago, five almost 6 years ago now, I guess, a friend of mine and I sat down, and he had the idea to start a podcast, um, to basically give he and I an outlet for talking about cars. He and I are very much in the gearhead frame of things, and we very much like talking cars. Most any time we get together, we talk about cars, and so this was both an opportunity for us to vent to each other and talk about cars, but also an opportunity that our wives didn't have to hear about cars. Because ladies, for those of you who are married to gearheads, you know the pain of constantly hearing about cars, typically out of nowhere. While you're out driving around town and there's some random fact about, hey, did you know that car only came in X many colors for X many years? And it may be intriguing information to me, but she probably didn't care one bit. But it was information that I shared anyway. So the podcast was an outlet for he and I, and there was hopes of it turning into something more, and it did. We jumped into doing the podcast thing, and And not too long later, he actually came across a group called the Texas Auto Writers Association, and they I guess it was about 6 or 7 months later. They were putting on. They have two main events every year. Kind of a truck rodeo where it's SUVs and pickup trucks, off road vehicles, and then a spring event. That one's in the fall, and the spring event is the car roundup, and that's more of the cars and still some SUVs, a lot of crossovers, that kind of thing. So, um, two big events that they do every year, and we happened to fall in line with the fall event, and he got to go, and he went, and he fell in love with it immediately. And so by the time the spring event came around for the car one, he and I went together, and we had a great time at that event, um, along with some other opportunities that the podcast afforded us. This was also our opportunity to step into the YouTube realm of automotive vehicle reviews. And so he and I went to that event in the spring, and by that summer, he had swindled Toyota into sending us a couple of vehicles. One was the Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro of that year, and the other was a Lexus. What was that? Lexus. It was a crossover SUV, comparable in size to the 4Runner, but very not for us. It was very girly. It had a vanity mirror in the center console. Just a weird pick for a couple of guys that were buddies that reviewed cars to get. But we made the most of it. We had some fun with it, and that kind of kicked us off pretty officially into the world of automotive reviews, and having press fleet. That those two vehicles also sort of began to drive a wedge between he and I in our direction for the business and the company, and because it was his idea, um, I I decided that it was time for me to move on. Later that fall, I made the decision to step away. We finished out that year worth of podcasting, and I stepped away from it completely for about 2.5, 3 years. Um, Differences in opinions about the direction the company was going, differences in opinion about how the company should be run, and we parted ways and moved on. Um, I learned a whole lot, and I do owe a great deal of gratitude to him for the time that we shared together, because I've learned a lot um, about this, about live streaming, about podcasting, about making YouTube videos and making online content, and how to follow it, and how to make it effective, and how to make it monetized, and how to grow your customer base and that kind of thing. And I would not know what I know if it hadn't been for that time that I spent with that friend in that time. Um, but it was time for me to do my own thing. It was time for me to step into my own. I did take about, like I said, I think it was about 2 years away from it altogether, and just sort of step back from it all. Um, I'd also we we had a baby in the meantime, and so in the midst of life in general, um, I did decide to go ahead and start doing some bit of automotive content again, and started the Wide Open channel, and on YouTube, and doing some reviews. And because of where I was working at the time, I had some opportunities to to review some vehicles that most people probably didn't spend just a whole lot of time around. One of which was an EV school bus, one of the first. It was by Bluebird, and it was interesting. That review, if you're watching on YouTube, that review is still here on the channel. It's probably one of my most popular videos on the channel. So if you want to, go check that out. Excuse me. But yeah, so I did a few different reviews with a couple of friends, some different vehicles and things that I had come across the lot there while I was working at a truck dealership, and uh, and just had overall a good time with that kind of content. And then baby come along, we got busy, and life got busy, and so again I sort of stepped back from it. Now with this show, on both on YouTube and on Rumble, and hopefully if I can get Facebook to listen to me, I'll be on Facebook Live as well in the future. But yeah, this live stream is kind of a an opportunity for me to still do the automotive content and still cover some events and things that are going on, still cover some of the content that's going on in the automotive industry, but also a little more of an opportunity for me to share my opinions about some of those things. This is a little less structured than a typical automotive review, and so it allows me a little more freedom. Um, Sometimes to my demise, I'll admit it, but it allows me a little more freedom to talk about what I want to talk about instead of being somewhat shoehorned into a specific category or specific vehicle or something like that. So that's kind of what this is about. I do have plans in the future to get back into the automotive review side of things. And I do plan on partnering with TAWA, Texas Auto Writers Association, again at some point in the future, and leaning into more of the reviews, which you'll see more and more of that here on this channel. But ultimately, I would like to see this channel grow into a sustainable avenue for me to get to talk about what my passions are, which are cars and trucks and four-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive and manual transmissions and gasoline engines and diesel engines and V8s and four cylinders and just all the things that are automotive, that are boat related, personal watercraft, uh, even potentially some airplane and helicopter content at some point in the future. If it has an engine, I will have an opinion about it. I can just about guarantee you. So uh, I like talking about it, and I hope that's what this channel can develop into is just an opportunity for me to talk about it, and an opportunity for you guys to share with me your own opinions about some of these things, your own thoughts about whatever it is that I'm talking about that week, whether it's mid-sized pickups that I talked about several weeks ago, or the direction of the automotive industry this week, or whatever the case is. This will be our avenue for each other. Excuse me, our avenue for each other to share those opinions and joke around with each other and that kind of thing. That's kind of the ultimate goal of this live stream. So yeah, I mean, that's me in a bit of a nutshell. If you have any questions for me or anything like that that you'd love to, something more specific that you'd like to know more about me, drop me a message here or send me a message on Facebook or YouTube, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. Um, I do, like I said, I enjoy talking cars. So if you get me off on a tangent, I'm liable to be there for a while. But uh, I also understand that I'm not the only one. There are many, many, many people out there who enjoy cars and enjoy tinkering and enjoy listening to and driving around and listening to people talk about cars. So if that's you, this is probably a good place for you to spend some time. If it's not you, I understand that too. This may be a one and done type conversation this week. I'm going a little bit longer than I have in the past, but I wanted to share my story with you, and I appreciate you sticking in here with me and listening for a little bit. So but that's it for this week. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see y'all next time.